Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you all?
Good, Miss Nandi.
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm always good.
Okay.
That's a good way to live.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. What's the time?
Time to start.
Yeah, we need to start.
Can I ask a quick question about an assignment that we have due?
Yeah.
The discussion one assignment, how are we supposed to turn those in?
Oh, go to D12, then go to assessment tab.
Okay.
And then under assessment, you can see the assignment. Go over there, assignment, then you can see discussion one.
Are we supposed to just answer one of those questions, Miss Nandi?
So if there are A and B, two parts of the question, then you have to answer both A and B.
Wait, you said to go to assessment and under which one again?
Discussion, assessment, then assignments.
So okay, I can just upload it. There doesn't have to be like
No, you just upload it. It should be your Word document.
Okay.
Make sure it is a Word. You should not upload any picture or photo.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I'm doing it right, Miss Nandi, because I believe there's 4 questions on there, and it says that you can do this one or this one, and then the next one says or this one or this one. So I didn't know. I seen the one about the bacteria, which one comes first, the virus or the host, and that was one separate, question. And so I didn't know if I was supposed to just answer that one and the one above it, or what.
I don't know. I have to check. Let me check what I gave.
And I'm going under discussions. Maybe I just don't know how to do it, but it's not letting me upload. You said under assessment and under the discussion tab, correct?
I'm telling you. Wait.
Actually, there's nothing under here.
Under there, where?
I don't see anything under discussions. It says you have no discussions to post.
No. It's okay. So do you see assessment tab?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so go to assessment. Then under assessment, you see assignments.
Yeah.
Okay, go over there. Assignments.
There are no assignments.
According to Wikipedia, assonance is a resemblance in the sounds of words, syllables, either between their vowels or between their consonants.
Okay, so do you see the
assonance between consonants?
Oh my
is generally
goodness.
called consonants in American usage.
Okay, do you see discussion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Only on the content tab is.
Yeah, now content, yeah. But it's not under discussions tab from assessment. Let's see. Yeah, we can go to it from content, Miss Nandi.
No. Content, that's the question. That's the question I posted. Right? If you go to content,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, I see the questions. Yeah, and
that's the question. Discussion 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. But if you go to assessment tab,
yeah, are you doing it on your form, Miss Nandi? Because we don't see anything.
you don't see anything.
It just
No,
says
ma'am.
there's nothing.
Okay, so assessment, then assignment. Did you open it? Assignment?
Yep, I'm on it
It
right
says
And
now.
there is
no assignments and it won't let us
there
post
is no
anything.
folder.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, Miss Nandi, let me share my screen.
No, you cannot share. But I see here that I see that it's here.
Yeah, it's not on here, Miss Nandi.
Okay. After the class, I will check. But I see that. So what you have to do, assessment, then assignment. If you click assignment, then you can see there are discussion folder. So click discussion folder and then upload your work.
Yeah, you might want to check it because we got to get this done, Miss Nandi.
Yeah, I after the class I will check. But on my laptop it's there. Okay, I will check again.
Okay.
Maybe the dates, something,
I'm gonna send this to you.
or maybe I kept it hide from you guys. I'm not sure. But okay, let me see discussion 1. Okay, restrictions. Nope. Okay, I got it. Okay, start date. There is, I think there is no start date. So that's the reason. Okay, could you please check now? Can you see it now?
Still nothing on my end.
Nope, nothing on mine.
Did you refresh it?
Yes,
Yep.
ma'am. 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah, we're
Yep.
trying to make it work, Miss Nandi. It just ain't working.
No, but it's there. Why?
Do you have an alternative as to how we can turn this in?
No.
Okay.
It should work. Okay, I will check now. No, now let me finish this class and then I will check.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me write it down and I will do it. So discussion, but it's not under discussion folder. It's actually under assignment folder.
Yep, that's where we were at.
Okay, you will see it. Don't worry. Okay, so let me start. Who are waiting? Somebody is waiting. Okay, so let's start. So chapter 7. Okay. So basically this chapter is talks about biochemistry, and I think you already have studied in AP1 to biology 1010. So this chapter is pretty simple. You had studied this topic on biology 1010 and AP1. So, okay. So, living organisms are composed of matter. Matter means give me 1 second. Okay. 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 So, this chapter talks about the biochemistry, you know. So living organisms are composed of matter. Matter, I mean, that has weight, okay, and can occupy some space. That's the definition of matter. So it has mass or weight and occupies space, like air. Air has weight and it occupies space. So air is an example of matter. Now all matter are made up of atom. So atom is the smallest functional unit of matter. It's like cell inside our body. Like uh, uh, our body is made up of millions, billions of cell. Okay. So cell is the smallest functional unit, or you can say the building block. Exactly same way, the atom is the functional unit of matter. So basically all matter are made up of atom. Okay, so now what happens, so let me write it down. So if let's say it's a matter, all matter are made up of atom. Now if that matter is made up of just only one atom, if it is completely made up of one atom, then that is called element. Okay. And if it is made up of more than one atom, then that could be either molecule or it could be compound. Okay, so matter is made up of atom. If the matter is made of with only one type of atom or only one atom, that is called element. Okay, one type of atom. So that's the element. Example, it could be carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. So just only if you break it down, one carbon or one hydrogen, you can find out only one carbon atom. Now, if the matter is made up of more than one atom, so basically multiple atom is there, then it could be molecule or it could be compound. So inside the molecule, so molecule, two or more atoms are there. Inside molecule, there are two or more atoms are there. Example could be hydrogen, oxygen, water. Okay, So water, that's a molecule. Oxygen, that's a molecule. Hydrogen, that's a molecule. Why? Because inside hydrogen, this hydrogen is made up of, when we are talking about H2, hydrogen is made up of two hydrogen atom. So over here, we have more than one atom. So that's a molecule. Water. Consider water. The formula of water is H2O. Over here, if we break it down, the water, what we are going to find? We are going to find two hydrogen atom and one oxygen. So basically, three atoms are there inside water. So water, that's an example of molecule. Okay. So we can tell that when it is a molecule, more than one atom is there. That's number one condition. So more than one atom is there. That's the one condition. Number two, it could be more than. It could be similar type or more than one type of atoms are there. So over here, when it is hydrogen, H2 or oxygen, same type of atoms, two hydrogen, but more than one. Number is more than one. In case of H2O, we have two different types of atom, okay? Two hydrogen and one oxygen. So altogether, basically three atoms are there and two different types of atom. Now the compound is a substance consisting of two or more different type of elements. So this condition over here, that made up of more than one atom. So compound, it is made up of more than one atom. So basically, at least minimum two atoms are there. But at the same time, that those two or more atoms must be two or more different types of atom should be there. Basically, two or more elements should be there. Okay, so for compound, if it could be H2O. So we have over here H2O, we have three different atoms. And at the same time, we have two types of atom. Okay, we have hydrogen, we have oxygen. So that's the compound. So the condition for the compound is that multiple atoms should be there. Not only that, there must be at least two different types of atoms there. So in that way, if we follow this condition, then H2O, that's not an compound. It's not a compound because it has more than one type of atom. It is made up of two hydrogen atoms, but both the hydrogen are similar type. So over here, it does not fulfill this condition. So two different types, at least two different types. So hydrogen, it's a molecule, but it is not a compound. Okay, but on the other hand, water, that is a compound because it has two different types of atoms. It has hydrogen and oxygen, so two different types. Okay, and all together it has 3 atoms, so 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen, so all together 3 atoms are there inside water. So water actually both compound and molecule. Okay, now we can say that all compounds are actually molecule, but not all molecules are compound. So what do you say? Can we say that? Lisa?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Okay, let me write it down. So we can say that all compounds are molecules, but not all molecules are compound. Okay, how? We have to justify this statement. Okay, so based on the definition, both the molecule and compound are made up of more than one atom. Are you clear that part?
Yes.
So both compounds and molecule has more than one atom. Okay, but the thing is, to be molecule, it could be same type of atoms or different types of atom. Okay, so by that definition, H2, that is a molecule because it has more than one atom. So when it is H2, it is made up of 2 hydrogen atom. Okay, so more than 2 atoms are there. H2O, we have 3 atoms, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. So basically 3 atoms are there. So more than 1 atoms are there, so they are molecule. Okay, over here, H2O, H2 is made up of same type of atom. Water is made up of 2 different types of atom, hydrogen and oxygen. So that's the molecule. So molecule could be similar type, molecule is made up of both the similar type of atoms or different types of atom. But to be compound, it has to be different types of atom. Okay, so compound is made up of at least 2 different types of atoms. So compound H2O, it is made up of both hydrogen and oxygen, so that's a compound. Okay, but hydrogen, though it has 2 atoms, but both are the similar type of atoms, both are hydrogen. So hydrogen is not a compound, but water, yes, that's a compound. Okay, so we can say that all compounds are molecule, but not all molecules are compound. Are you clear now?
Yes, thank you so much.
Did you get it? All of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me change the pen color. Okay. So the most abundant element in cell is hydrogen. Very, very important. Essential nutrients must be provided to an organism, otherwise organism cannot grow or cannot develop. Okay. 2 categories of essential nutrients are there: macronutrients and micronutrients. Based on the quantity required quantity. So macronutrients, macro, the word macro means large. So macronutrients like hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus, they required in large quantities. Okay, so basically to grow, especially we are talking about over here all the living organism. Mostly we are talking about human, and here in this course we are interested about microbes, so few animals and bacteria. So for all these organisms to grow, for their growth and for their development, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, they required in large quantities. Basically inside the cell, this hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, they actually make almost 96% of a cell. Okay, that much we need. So it's a huge quantity, you know, almost all the inner part of the cell is made up of all these elements, and that's why they are called macronutrients. Micronutrients are the trace elements, okay? They required in small amounts. So basically over here, the macronutrients, that hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, they are actually the major, you can say the major constituent of the cell. And that's why they are called macronutrients. Micronutrients, they are very, very essential. Without all these micronutrients, our growth and development won't be possible. Okay, but all these elements, they need in very small amounts. Example like iron, we need it very, very, very small amount. But if we do not have iron inside our body, inside the cell, then our body cannot supply oxygen. So this iron, they are very important part inside the red blood cell, okay, and they actually transport oxygen throughout the body. So this iron inside the RBC, they help to transport oxygen throughout your body. Without oxygen, the metabolism inside your body won't be possible. Okay, but you need very little amount of iron. You can understand that 96% of cell is made up of this macronutrients. So micronutrients, they are only about 4 to 5% of cell. We needed very little amount, but they are very, very important. How you actually define the word major? If major means the essential, then micronutrients, they are the major elements. Okay, they also are the major elements. If major means essential, so that micronutrients, we need it in a very small quantity, but they are very, 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 very essential. You can understand that without iron, you cannot even breathe. Okay. Iodine, that actually very, very, very important for your metabolism, because that iodine helps to make thyroid hormone. Okay, so if there is not enough iodine inside your body, then your body will not produce enough thyroid hormone, and this thyroid hormone actually responsible for your growth and metabolism. Okay, So you need very little amount of iodine, but it's essential. It must be there. All these micronutrients or trace elements, they are actually toxic for the body. And if someone take these trace elements or micronutrients in a large quantity and for a longer period, then it's very, 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 very lethal. Okay. Like iron, it's a, you can understand, iron, sodium, molybdenum, zinc, all these are metal, heavy metal. Okay, so they are very poisonous for our body, but at the same time they are essential. So they need it in very small amounts, so that's why they are micronutrients. On the other hand, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus are they required in very large quantities, so they are called macronutrients. But both macro and micronutrients, they are essential for our body. Elements in living soil can also categorize nutrients according to the carbon content. Okay, basically it's not carbon content, it's basically the carbon hydrogen bond, presence or absence of this carbon hydrogen bonds. Based on that, we have two different type of nutrients or materials. We have organic materials and we have inorganic materials, inorganic nutrients. When it is organic means there must be a carbon hydrogen bond. So basically carbon must be attached with hydrogen with a bond along with other elements. Okay, so not only carbon hydrogen, but this bond should be there along with other elements. So it over here oxygen could be there, nitrogen could be there, so any other elements should be there, but this bond C and H, this combination must be there inside the organic nutrients. The other thing is, the other characteristic is that organic materials, organic molecules, they are actually the result of the living beings, or you can say that they are the product of the living beings. Okay, they cannot make salt. That's the another characteristics, can't make salt. On the other hand, inorganic nutrients, you cannot see carbon hydrogen bond. So carbon hydrogen bond is missing here. They are not the product of living beings. Okay, they are actually natural products. Basically, you can find them inside the environment as a natural products, or maybe lab made. Okay, and can make salt. So these are the differences between inorganic and organic. So first one, the presence or absence of carbon hydrogen bond. Number two, product of living organisms or natural products or lab-made products. Number three, can produce salt or cannot produce salt. One example, like let's say C6H12O6, that's the glucose. Okay, so glucose, we can see that we have carbon hydrogen bond, at least one carbon hydrogen bond should be there. So we have that carbon hydrogen bond, so it's organic compound. Okay, air inside the environment, we have lots of huge amount of carbon dioxide. Over here, carbon dioxide, that carbon hydrogen bond is lacking. Okay, so carbon dioxide, that's an inorganic compound. Okay, all living organisms like us, we can have organic compound, organic nutrients. Okay, we cannot consume inorganic compounds. To get those inorganic compounds, we are actually dependent on plants. That's why we are heterotrophic organism. Okay, but all the product inside our body, byproduct of metabolism, everything is organic. Okay, we cannot, consume this carbon dioxide. So that's the difference between organic and inorganic. Did you get it?
Yes.
Next one, biomolecules. Okay, biomolecules means all the molecules inside a living organism. So everything should be organic. Okay, we have four, the main actually: carbohydrate, lipids, nutrients, nucleic acids, and these biomolecules. So basically, who are these? We know that they are the organic compounds because we need it. We must have carbon hydrogen bond. Okay, then all these biomolecules, they are actually macromolecules, means they are very large, and that's the reason they are called biomolecules. Okay, so they are organic, they have carbon hydrogen bond, and they're very large macromolecules that we need inside our body for our cell growth and development, and that's why they are the biomolecules. Example: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. Carbohydrate, it has carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, plus other materials. Lipids, carbon, these are the main ingredients. Okay, lipids, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Protein, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, plus other ingredients. Nucleic acid, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus. Very important, these two are easy to remember: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, the main ingredient. Proteins, along with that carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, it has nitrogen and sulfur. These two ingredients are very important, that nitrogen and sulfur. Nucleic acid, nitrogen and phosphorus. So phosphorus is very important part of the nucleic acid. On the other hand, the sulfur and nitrogen are the very important parts of the protein. Chemistry of carbon. So I hope you already remember that octet rule. So that octet rule, based on that octet rule, we will go back a little bit inside the chemistry. So octet rule, it says that molecules, they actually bonded with other molecule in such a way so that they can fulfill 8 electrons on their outer orbit. Okay, so 8 electrons should be there on the outermost orbit of an atom. Okay, that's the main principle of octet rule. So 8 electrons. So how actually it goes, the electron distribution inside an atom, or if we want to observe the electronic configuration of an atom. So how it goes: so if it is an atom, so it has a nucleus. Inside the nucleus, we can find out a proton. I cannot write. So proton and neutron. Okay, That's the nucleus. Now electrons, they actually are orbiting surrounding that nucleus. Okay, so that's the structure of an atom. Now how many electrons are there? Based on there are how many orbits, that depends on the how many electrons, okay, are there. And there are fixed, basically all this orbit has capacity, maximum amount, how many electron they actually can carry inside this orbit. So first orbit, it can carry it can have 2 electrons at the max. Second orbit, it can have 8 electrons at the max. Third orbit, it can have 8 electrons at the max. And based on the octet rule, if any atom has 8 electrons on the outermost shell, then that atom is happy. Okay, atom is happy means atom is actually inactive in chemical reaction. Okay, but if outermost orbit is not fulfilled with 8 electron, means the atom is unhappy, means atom is very active in chemical reaction, because their tendency should be to grab or lose extra electron, or to grab extra electrons, so that they can fulfill 8 electron on the outermost layer. And that's how all the chemical reactions and chemical bonding occurs. Okay, so let's say sodium. Okay, sodium has 11 electrons. So if we want to configure the electronic configuration, how it will be, so the first orbit should carry 2 electrons. Then the second orbit, it can carry maximum 8 electrons, so 8 electrons would be there, so 8 to 10. So outermost orbit has 1 electron for sodium. Now chlorine, it has 17 electron altogether. So how it will go to 8 and 7. So sodium, that's a heavy metal. Okay, and it's very poisonous if you consume large amount. Chlorine, a highly poisonous gas. If you inhale, it's very lethal, you can die. Now these two elements, you can see when they are alone, like sodium in the nature and chlorine in the nature, they are unhappy, because outermost orbit of sodium, it needs 7 more electrons. For chlorine, outermost orbit, it needs 1 more electron, okay, to fulfill that octet rule and to be happy. So what actually they do, if you keep these two elements together, like sodium and chlorine, what they actually do, sodium will release or donate 1 electron to chlorine, okay, and chlorine will accept that electron. So sodium is going to lose 1 electron. So if it loses 1 electron, the outermost orbit electron, then it has 2 8. So now this is the outermost orbit and it has 8. So now sodium will be inactive and very happy. In case of chlorine, if chlorine accepts that extra electron from sodium, then outermost orbit of chlorine will be fulfilled with 8 electrons. Then chlorine will be very happy and it will not take any more part in the chemical reaction. Now what happens when sodium donate that extra electron, sodium actually is going to be Na plus, so basically positive ion. Now it's not an element anymore, it will be ion. Why? Okay, so how it goes, like electron, how many electrons are there inside an atom? Exactly same amount of protons are there. Okay, and that's the reason. So proton, they are the positive, electrons, they're negative. So because of the attraction of positive and negative, they remain together, and that's the reason electrons, they don't get out of the uh, atom. Okay, so the attraction from the nucleus, from the proton, and the orbit negative attraction, these two together actually make one atom. So, and that's the reason the number of electron and proton is always same in an atom. So sodium, for sodium, sodium has 11 electron, means it has 11 proton, right? Now, if it donates 1 electron, so now it has 10 electron and 11 proton. So this is minus charges and this is positive charges. So what happens? After donating that electron, sodium has 1 extra positive charge, right? So that's why it is now sodium ion. So when one element, they donate or they receive extra electron, they converted into ion. So over here now, sodium, it is a positive ion. Now in case of chlorine, what happened? Chlorine will be Cl minus because it has extra. So for chlorine, so 17 protein and electron was 17. Now 1 electron extra, so 18. That means 1 extra negative charge, right? So that's why chlorine will be negative anion. So after donating or receiving electrons, the atom converts into ion. So that, I hope you got the difference between ion and atom. Now what happened when they exchange? So over here, these two, sodium donates 1 electron to chlorine, chlorine accepts that electron, and together they make sodium chloride. That's your table salt, and that is edible. Okay, so just imagine sodium, it was heavy metal, poisonous for your body. Chlorine, poisonous gas. But after this exchanging of electrons, they completely converted into a new element, new compound, and that is the sodium chloride. That's table salt. So over here, sodium and chlorine, by exchanging this electron, they actually make one bond in between. Okay, and this bond is called ionic bond. So basically, when elements or atoms, they either they lose lose electron or gain electron, and by doing that, by exchanging their electrons, they make a bond in between them. That bond is called ionic bond. So you can see that like hydrogen separately can stay, oxygen separately can stay, but when they're together, they make H2O, that water. That means they have a bond in between. So that's the secret of making a compound. Okay, to stay in a compound mode, all the elements or molecule, they actually make bond, and then only they can stay together, like husband and wife. You have to marry, then you would be husband and wife. Okay, so that marriage is the bond. Okay, in a chemical reaction, you can say. So that's ionic bond. Now what happened? Let's say oxygen. Okay, oxygen has 6 electron and 6 proton. So if we configure electronic configuration, so first orbit has 2, and then second orbit, oxygen has 8. Second orbit has 6. Okay, so oxygen, it needs 2 more electrons. Okay, let me see who is joining. Shinalo. So in this case, in case of oxygen, what happens? 2 oxygen actually come together because both of them, they need 2 extra electron on their outermost orbit. Okay, so let's say this is the outermost orbit, 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. So what they do in case of oxygen, these 2 atoms, they come very closer, okay, and they share their electron with each other. They don't donate. They are not going to lose or not gain. They actually share their electron. So in this case, what happened? This oxygen behaves like that. Okay, so I have 8 electron. Okay, this oxygen also counts these 2 electrons, and it also can behave like, you know, the full inactive mode. So now, as a result, they actually can convert into a molecule. So single atom, by sharing their pair of electron, they can convert into a molecule, or you can say compound. So that's another type of bond, and that bond actually forms because of sharing. In this case, this bond is called covalent bond. Okay, so ionic bond because of the gain or losing, covalent bond because of the sharing. For carbon has altogether 6 electrons. Okay, so basically for carbon, so the first orbit, it has 2 electrons. Second orbit, it has a 4 electron. So altogether it has 6. Now, what happened for carbon? So let's say it has 4. So these 2 and this 2. Another carbon, it can come over here. Another carbon can come here. So look, this carbon, so it had 1, 2, 3, 4 actually, but now 5, 6, 7, 8. Now these 3 can stay together by sharing, by making covalent bond, and they can pretend that they have 8. At least this carbon can pretend 8. This carbon can make another with another carbon. So it can go on, okay? So by this way, carbon, they can make a long chain to fulfill that 8 electron on their outermost orbit, and by making that covalent bond. And as a result, they can make a long chain of carbon. Okay, and that chain is called carbon skeleton. You can see they can make a long chain of carbon, or it's called carbon skeleton. So basically what they did over here, they actually shared their electrons. And when they shared their electron with another carbon, they're not exclusively sharing all the electrons with that carbon. They can share their electrons with other elements as well. Okay, like over here, instead of C, it could be oxygen. It could be oxygen. They can do that. Okay, and as a result, carbon has a capacity to make bond with a huge number of elements, and that's very important characteristics for chemical reactions. Okay, and that's the reason carbon is very, very, very important. So I hope you got what I meant for carbon skeleton. So they can make a long chain, and that's a carbon skeleton. And by that way, it could be long straight chain of carbon skeleton. It could be branched. Over here you can see branched. They can make branch, or it could be a ring structure. So ring structure, when if you keep carbon and hydrogen inside water aqueous solution, they make a ring structure. You will see this is the glucose, everywhere you can see this picture, but that's in aqueous solution. Simplest organic compounds are hydrocarbons, and I hope you didn't forget that carbon hydrogen bonds means that's the organic. So we are talking about biomolecules, means all the organic compounds inside our body that we need for our growth and development. Not only that, all these compounds are the byproduct or the products of our metabolic activity, and that's why they are the biomolecules, and at the same time they are organic molecules, organic compounds. Hydrocarbon means anything consists of carbon and hydrogen, that's the hydrocarbon. Each carbon atom forms 4 bonds with 4 hydrogen atom. That I think you got that point at this point. Isomers, molecules that have the same molecular formula same, but different structure. Look at this picture. So basically in chemistry, structure actually structure of a compound reflects its function. Okay, if there is any change in structure, that actually change the function of that element or of that compound, any change. Okay, so that thing happens over here. So glucose and fructose both has 6 carbon, 12 hydrogen, 6 oxygen. Okay, the formula is C6H12O6. For fructose, C6H12O6. So both has same formula, but that structure is different. You can see for the glucose that a C double O bond, that the double bond is at the end of the chain, but for the fructose, that C double bond O, that double bond is inside the chain. So only the position of C double bond O is different in glucose and fructose, and that's why their chemical nature is completely different from each other, and that's why they are two different compounds. Though their compositions are same, their formula same, but because of the structure, they are 2 different compounds, and that's why they are called isomers. So isomers, same formula, same composition, but the layout, structural layout is different, and that's why their chemical activity, chemical properties are different from each other. These compounds are called isomers. Functional group, a group of atoms responsible for the characteristic reactions of a particular compound. So group of atoms, like let's say oxygen and hydrogen. When they are together, we called this group as hydroxyl group. Okay. No, we don't read like, oh, oxygen and hydrogen. No, when they're together and like this way, O and H, they have special name. They're called hydroxyl group. Why? Because when they're together, they behave like a one single unit. Okay. Not only that, that's one characteristic. Number two, everywhere in chemical reaction, they actually move together. You cannot break it down. You cannot separate oxygen and hydrogen when they are behave like a hydroxyl group. So that time they are just one single unit. They have just one properties. They behave like one element, and they everywhere they move in a chemical reaction. They move together in a chemical reaction, and they are called functional group. Okay. And they are responsible for the characteristic reactions of a particular compound. Functional groups behave consistently from one organic molecule to another. Every time they're same. As I told that when they are O and H together hydroxyl group, you cannot break it down. If one chemical reaction donating OH, so every time that oxygen and hydrogen will go together as a hydroxyl group, and they actually control the properties of that chemical reaction. So they are called functional group. Over here, you can see that hydroxyl group OH together, carbonyl group C double bond O. You have seen this group C double bond O in glucose and fructose. Now, this carbonyl group, that C double bond O, there are two different types, aldehyde or ketone. Let me go back over here. If that carbonyl group C double bond O, they are inside the skeleton, you can see that they're inside the skeleton. Then they are called ketone group. When they are at the end of the skeleton, then they are aldehyde group. Okay, so now this C double bond will behave as a ketone, and they over here behave as one functional group, which is called aldehyde group. Carboxyl group C double OH, amino group NH2, phosphate group PO4 minus. So make sure to memorize the formula. Test at least one question I give, like you have to find out the formula, which one is the carboxyl group. Okay, which one is carboxyl group? You have to find out, these are the four options. So you have to find out that this is the carboxyl group. So make sure you memorize. So if it is phosphate, it is PO4 minus. If it is amino group, NH2. If it is carboxyl group, it is C double OH. All these are polar, means it has charge. Okay, like carboxylic acid group, they have negative charge, so that's why they behave like acid. Amino group, they have positive charge, extra positive charge, so that's why they behave like a basic group. Only one functional group which is non-polar for this class purpose, that's the methyl group. It does not have any charge. Over here, you can see that hydroxyl group, when it is OH group that gives the characteristic feature which is alcohol. So alcohol represent the presence of hydroxyl group. If OH group is there, you can say that that's an alcohol. Carbonyl group, either aldehyde or ketone. Carboxylic acid group, they are very, very acidic, COOH. Amino group, they are the basic group, NH2 or NH3. Phosphate, they are negative PO4. Methyl, they don't have any charge there, CH3. Make sure you memorize the characteristics. Like you really need to know the hydroxyl group is represented by, alcohol is represented by hydroxylic acid group, which one is aldehyde and which one is ketone, all those. Many of life's molecules are gigantic, so they're very large. I'm talking about biomolecules. So they are biomolecule. They are biomolecule. Okay, they are biomolecule. Has carbon-hydrogen bond. They are organic and they are very large. That's why they are macromolecules. Now, there are few macromolecules who are made up of several copies of one single unit. Okay, so they are made up of, you can say, several copies of single unit, and this single unit is called monomers. Okay, so few macromolecules, they are actually made up of monomers. And who are the monomers? The individual unit is monomers. It's like a you can say the pearl necklace or bead necklace. Okay, all these beads, they are the monomers. Individual pearl or individual bead, they are the monomers. Together, this necklace represent polymer. Okay, so basically polymer, they are made up of multiple monomers. Okay, more than one monomers. So that's the monomers and polymers. Now, monomers, all these monomers together, when they make polymer, they go through dehydration synthesis reaction. So these beads, when they make a necklace, they actually do this dehydration synthesis reaction. Dehydration means they release one molecule of water, and when they break down, like large necklace, when they get separated, means monomers, they get separated from each other, and then they need supply of water, that reaction, and that reaction is called hydrolysis. So over here, dehydration, synthesis, this goes actually together. So what happens? So monomer plus monomer together, they release one molecule of water. So one hydroxyl group from one monomer and hydrogen from another monomer, together they make H2O, water. So they release one molecule of water. So water over here, that's the byproduct. Okay, so these two monomers, they are actually going to make one polymer. That's the product of this reaction. Water, that's the byproduct. Okay, so release of water molecules, so that's why they are the dehydration reaction, and synthesis is small. So over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unit, together they make 6 units. So they actually build or synthesize a large compound. So that's why this is the synthesis reaction, dehydration synthesis reaction. But when polymers breaks down into monomers, they undergo hydrolysis reaction. lysis means breaks down. So basically what happened in that case? So when it's a large polymer and we have to break it down into monomers, what we have to do? We have to have supply of water. If there is no supply of water, this reaction will not take place. Okay, we have to have supply of water, and that water breaks down into hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. Okay, one hydrogen ion goes to one monomer, and another, the hydroxyl ion goes to another monomer, and that's the purpose of that water. Okay, that's why that presence of water is very important. And over here water breaks down into these two ions, so that's why this reaction is called hydrolysis. Make sure you remember. So monomer to monomer, that's the dehydration. Okay, polymer to monomer, that's the hydrolysis reaction. Very, very important. Make sure you remember. Biological molecules or the macromolecules, we have 4 types. We already talked about it. Carbohydrates, lipids, protein, and nucleic acids. So carbohydrate, class of molecules with many hydroxyl groups and one carbonyl group. So multiple OH groups are there and at least one carbonyl group. Maybe it could be aldehyde or ketone. Carbohydrates range from small sugar molecules in soft drinks to long starch molecule in pasta and potatoes. There are 3 classes of carbohydrate: monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. The word from here to here, the saccharides represent sugar. Okay, so over here, that monosaccharides, they are actually the monomer of disaccharides and polysaccharides. Okay, so they are the basic fundamental units of carbohydrates. Remember, the carbohydrates, they are actually biomolecular, macromolecular, really large. Okay, so when only one sugar unit is there, and sugar unit means over here we are talking about C6H12O6. So this glucose or sugar, that's the monomer of carbohydrate. So carbohydrate, basically, who are the fundamental units of carbohydrate? Glucose or simple sugar. They are the monomers or fundamental units. Okay, so when only one sugar is there, that's the monosaccharide. When 2 sugars are there, make the polymer, that's the disaccharides. Multiple sugar unit is there, that's the polysaccharides. General formula of monosaccharide, CnH2nON. You can see C6H12O6, that's the glucose. So number of carbon and number of oxygen remain same, 6, but hydrogen is actually double of carbon. Okay, so that's the general formula, or you can see empirical formula of monosaccharides. They form rings when they are in aquatic solution. So these are glucose, fructose, they are all monosaccharides. Okay, glucose, basically, this is the ring form of glucose. Usually, that's the formula. If you count, that's the C6H12O6. Okay, look in picture, it's so congested. So that's why at the beginning we reduced all the carbon. We don't write down the carbon, and that's the abbreviated structure of glucose. But still it's congested, so now we actually take out only the oxygen. So this structure represent the glucose. Okay, universal structure of glucose actually. So when it's like this, that means we have one hydrogen over here and we must have CH2 OH over here. Disaccharide, as I told, two monosaccharide, two monomers of glucose are there. Sucrose, an example of disaccharide made up of one molecule of glucose, one molecule of fructose. This is very, 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 very important. Make sure you memorize that. How to make sucrose? Okay, so one molecule of glucose, one molecule of fructose. Lactose, one molecule of glucose, one molecule of galactose. Maltose, one molecule of glucose, basically two molecules of glucose. Okay, so this glucose, fructose, galactose, they are the example of monosaccharide. Sucrose, lactose, maltose, they are example of disaccharides. Polysaccharide differ in function. Different polysaccharides are there, like starch, glycogen. Glycogen, all animals, they store carbohydrate in the form of glycogen. Plant, they store carbohydrate in the form of starch. Okay, cellulose, that's the structural components of plant. Differed, all these polysaccharides, they differ in function. Their function is different. You can see this, these are the storage compounds, and cellulose, they are the structural compounds. So their functions are different. Type of bonding between glucose, it actually depends how many glucose units are there, how many monomers are there, length, frequency of branching, and the coiling. If you see the structure, like glycogen and starch, they're really huge, really large. 100,000 of glucose units are here inside glycogen and starch. So you can see that both the glycogen and starch, they are actually branched. Okay, branched. They have branched structure. Cellulose, it does not have a branching pattern. It's flat, mostly the linear arrangement of the glucose. So this structural arrangements actually varies from one polysaccharides to another, and that's the reason they are chemical properties. Lipids, water insoluble. You can understand lipids, oil. You cannot mix up oil and water together. So that's why they are the hydrophobic. Important in long-term energy storage, contain twice as much as energy as a polysaccharide. So that these carbohydrates, they are our main source of energy. Okay, but from lipid, we actually get twice amount of energy as polysaccharide. How much energy we get from one molecule of carbohydrate? We get actually double amount of energy from one molecule of lipid, but still our body actually breaks down carbohydrate for energy. That's our regular pattern, regular habit. Consists mainly of carbon and hydrogen atoms linked by non-polar covalent bonds. Lipids differ from carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acid in that they are not large like carbohydrate, not built from monomer. So for carbohydrate, we know that glucose are the monomers of carbohydrate. For lipids, they have two monomers, and it's called glycerol and the fatty acids. Okay, together these two are the monomers of lipids. Glycerol and fatty acid together, they form lipids. Three classes of lipids are there: fats, phospholipids, sterols. So fats, they are the triglycerides. So when you go to doctor to test your triglycerides, that's the fat. These are fats, they stored in adipose tissue in your body. Phospholipids, that's the main content of your plasma membrane, means your cell membrane. Remember that phospholipid bilayer, I hope you remember. And the sterol, like cholesterol, very important for inside animals. So these are three different types of lipids we are going to study. So fats are triglycerides made up of one glycerol. Over here, this is the glycerol structure, and the fatty acids, three fatty acids chain. Remember, these are the monomers. So we have studied before that monomers and monomers together, when they make polymers, they go dehydration reaction, right? They do dehydration synthesis reaction. So basically, they release one molecule of water, right? So over here, that happens. So that glycerol and fatty acids, one fatty acid with glycerol, they release one molecule of water. So we have three fatty acids. So three molecule of water they release to make triglyceride. Okay. So this is the fatty acid chain. Okay. Fatty acid chain over here, mostly the carbon, hydrogen, and we have one carbonyl group. Okay. So you can see in this picture, there are few fatty acid chain who are straight. When they're straight, they don't have any double bond in between carbon and hydrogen. Okay, all carbon and hydrogen, they are attached with single bond. But this one over here, you can see that this carbon and hydrogen in between, they have double bond, and that's why they have a kink in their length, or they have a bend. They are not straight. Okay, so what happens when they are straight fatty acid? So they are tightly packed. Okay, but if one fatty acid it has a bend, then there is a gap in between these two fatty acids. So when they are tightly packed, fatty acid means there is no double bond, only single bond is there, and that's the reason they are tightly packed. Then they are solid in room temperature. Okay, example like butter in cream. When there is a double bond inside the fatty acid chain, that means they are not tightly packed, okay, and they have gap in between, and that makes them liquid in room temperature. Example, oil. So this fatty acid chain, where there is no double bond and they're solid in room temperature, they are the saturated fatty acid. When they have a kink or bend inside the fatty acid because of the presence of double bond, they are unsaturated fatty acid. Okay, so that's the difference between saturated versus unsaturated fatty acid. So saturated fatty acid, no double bond. Unsaturated, they have double bond. Okay, so saturated, no double bond, means they are solid at room temperature. That's the difference between oil and butter. So unsaturated, they are actually the good guy, okay, for our health. Same thing I already talked. Because of these double bond, they have a bend. Phospholipid, it has one a glycerol. This is the structure of glycerol, and two fatty acid chain. Okay. Plus, along with that glycerol and fatty acid, it has one phosphate group, and that part is called the head. Okay, so that's the phosphate, that's the glycerol, and that two fatty acids. So triglyceride or fat, they have three fatty acids. Phospholipid, they have only two fatty acids. Okay, so now what happened over here? One is saturated fatty acid chain, one is unsaturated fatty acid chain. I hope you remember that structure, the plasma membrane structure. Okay, so that's the phospholipid. Very, very important part of our cell membrane, so it's very important. Steroid, basically it's a sterol. Okay, one important animal steroid is cholesterol. Their structure is different than the fatty acids, than the triglyceride and the phospholipids. In this case, they don't have that glycerol and fatty acid structure. They have 4 ring structure, and that's why they are the steroid. They have ring structure along with methyl group, okay, in a specific position. Important one, cholesterol for us, okay. And remember when we studied the plasma membrane structure, it was fluid. I talked about that because of the presence of cholesterol, that actually gives the fluidity inside the plasma membrane. All different types of steroid, including sex hormones or growth hormones, everything actually originates from this cholesterol. So this is another very important carbohydrate for our growth and development. Proteins, do we have time? Okay, so let's keep up to this. We will study, we will start from proteins on Monday, okay? Do you have any question? Anybody?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, so we are going to start from proteins Monday.
Thank
Have a good
you.
one,
Have a good
everybody.
night.
Okay, good night, everyone.